Hey guys, in this video what we're going to do is set up our folder and file structure for the Daily Planner application. We're going to be using Bootstrap as our framework, which is valid HTML5, CSS3, and we'll also be using a little bit of JavaScript for our navbar. Alright, so if you've used Bootstrap before, then this should be easy for you. If not, it's still pretty easy to understand. It's a framework, and there's just, if we go to CSS, and you'll see on the right side here we have these different links. For instance, let's say tables. If you want a nice table like this, it'll give you the code. Basically it's just going to be elements with classes. Okay, so adding this table class is going to give you this nicely formatted table, nice spacing, and if you go down, we have a striped version as well. You just have to add the table striped class, and it's like that for everything. We have forms, we have inline forms for logins, horizontal, text area. It gives you all the different inputs. If we click buttons, you can have these different colored buttons simply by changing the class. You can see that this class here, BTN and then BTN primary, is going to give you this bluish button. If you use this success, okay, that's going to give you green. So really easy. Just about any element you can find here. If you can't find it here, then you'll find it on components. Okay, we have things like icons we can use, navbar. Okay, so this will give you your entire navigation menu, all different versions of it. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Daily Planner, and we're going to create our folders and files here. Basically, we're going to use Bootstrap, so let's go ahead and grab that. If we go to the Bootstrap homepage, click Download Bootstrap, and then we want to click this Download Bootstrap. Okay, so we'll open that up, click on the distribution folder, and you should have these three folders. Okay, we're going to drag these over. We actually don't need the fonts, so I'm just going to take the CSS and the JavaScript and bring them to our project. Alright, now what these have, let's open this up. We have a bunch of CSS files here. Basically this one and this min CSS, they're the same file, just one has comments, one doesn't. Min is for minified. That just means that it's a little smaller in file size because there's no comments, things like that. And then down here, if you want to use a certain Bootstrap theme, you can do that. But we're actually going to get rid of this, get rid of all these. Okay, I just want the bootstrap.css. So I'm going to delete those. Alright, and if we go into the JavaScript folder, we don't need the npm. And then these two, again, are the same, except the minified version is a little smaller. But I'm just going to use Bootstrap.js. So let's get rid of this one. Alright, and what we want to do is create our HTML files. So index, that'll be our main page. And then we're going to have add.html, which will be the, that should be a period. Okay, so that'll be to add a task, and then we want edit.html. Okay, so that'll be to edit current tasks, and that's about it as far as the structure. Now if we open up index.html, obviously we don't have anything here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open that up in a code editor, and I'm going to use Sublime Text 2, but you can use any text editor. Let me just close these. Okay, let me get rid of this. Okay, so we have our index page, and what I want to do to start out is go to the Bootstrap site and then go to Getting Started up here, and then Examples. Okay, and then here it kind of gives you some boilerplate templates to use. I'm going to use this really simple one, the starter template, which basically just gives us our nav bar. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control U so I can see the source code, and I'm just going to select it all and copy it. Alright, and then I'm going to bring that, let me get out of this. Then I'm going to put that code in my index file. Alright, so we have we have our doc type, which is needed for HTML5. We have our head and body areas. Okay, now in the head area, we'll start here. We don't need a description or author or icon, so I'm going to get rid of those. The viewport is important if you want it to be responsive, and this application will be completely responsive, so it'll look really good on mobile devices. Title, I'm just going to change this, call it Daily Planner. Now the links to the CSS files here, obviously this isn't correct. We don't have a dist folder, so what we're going to do is just delete from here to here, so it goes right into the CSS folder, which we have. And if you remember, we're not using the minified version, so I'm going to get rid of this and just make this bootstrap.css. Alright, and then here, this starter template.css is only for the sample template that I showed you. Basically, we don't need that. I'm just going to change this to style.css, and that's going to serve as our custom CSS file, because we don't want to touch the core Bootstrap CSS. Okay, so we'll just add on to it with this file. Let's see, we don't need any of this here. I'm going to get rid of all that. Just make this simple. And in the body, you can see that it has a nav bar, starts here and ends here. Then we have a container div. The container div will restrict everything to, I believe it's 960 pixels, so it kind of puts everything in the center. Alright, down here for our JavaScript, let's see, we're going to keep this line for jQuery. This one, again, we want to get rid of this dist, so we want to just take this out. Okay, now we do have our JS folder, and we're using bootstrap.js, so we want to get rid of this min. Alright, and then this, we don't need this here. Okay, so if we save that, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so the nav bar looks good. Now, the reason that this text is pushed up here is because we're not using that starter template CSS file, which has the code to bring this down. So actually, let's go ahead and look at that. If I go back to the demo, do a Control U, and go down to this starter template.css and click on that. Okay, it gives us the code. So what I'm going to do is just copy that and then put that in my style CSS file, which I haven't created yet. Okay, so we'll do that. And this will be where we put all of our CSS. Okay, we'll save that, and now okay, it's still not fixed. Oh, we need to add the CSS folder here. That's why. Alright, so there we go. Now our demo, or I'm sorry, our application is set up just like this demo. Okay, I'm going to get out of there so that we don't get confused which is which. Now I want to go back into the index file and just go down into the body now that the head's all set. So we have our nav bar. Okay, we're using the HTML5 nav tag or element, and then we have a, where is it? We have a link with the class of navbar brand, and that's wrapping your brand text or logo. If you want to put an image logo here, you could, but we're just going to change this to Daily Planner. And let's look at the links here. We have a home link, we have an about, and a contact. Okay, we're not going to be using those. I'm going to get rid of this contact, and then this link here, I'm going to say add entry. Okay, and then that's ultimately that's going to go to add.html. The home will go to index.html. And I'm going to get rid of this active class here. Okay, so if we save that, okay, so our brand's changed and our menu's changed. Now I want these links to be floated over here to the right. So it's pretty easy to do that. We want to this div right here, okay, with the ID of navbar class, navbar collapse. We're just going to add to the class, so just going to put a space here and say navbar right. Alright, and that just floats it to the right. So you can see that these pre-made classes are extremely helpful. We want to move something, it's as simple as adding the class. And that's it for the navbar, that's all set. Down here we have our container, and this is the content that's wrapped in it, that the container's wrapped around, which is this right here. We don't want that, so we can actually just get rid of all that. And then in our style sheet, style CSS, we don't need this class right here. We just want this body with the padding. Alright, so that should get rid of that. Alright, now what we do want here, first I'm going to put a header. So I'm going to have an H2, whoops, an H2 with a class of page header. Alright, and that's a Bootstrap class. It's just gonna make the, whoops, that should be an H2. It's gonna make the element the correct font size, the correct font, give it I believe it gives it a little underline. So in that, let's just put daily tasks. We'll say my daily tasks. Alright, and you can see since it's wrapped in a container, it stays in the middle here with the an even amount of space on each side. Alright, if we were to remove that container that's wrapped around it, it's just going to be on the edge of the browser, which doesn't look very good. Alright, so whenever you want to center content like that and you're using Bootstrap, you just want to wrap it in a container. Alright, and even the navbar has a container, because from here to here is the container. If you were to remove it, then this would be over here like this, and we don't want that. So let's just save that. Alright, now you saw the finished application, and what we had was a table with our daily tasks. So let's go ahead and just create a table element. Okay, we're going to put that right inside here in the container. Okay, so we'll have table. I'm going to give it a class of table, and I want it striped. So I'm going to give it a class of table striped. Alright, and we're going to give some headings here, so we need a table row. And then inside there we'll have some table headings. Okay, we'll have the task. Actually, we don't need these spaces. We'll have the priority. Okay, and we'll have the date. We'll have the time. Alright, and then I'm just going to have a blank heading as well, because that's where our actions are going to go. It's where the edit and remove buttons will go. So if we look at that, okay, we have the start of our table. And this is still very static. We don't have any kind of dynamic functionality. I'm just kind of setting up the base template. And it doesn't seem to be striped. I think I put stripped. This should actually be striped. Alright, so now you can see that it has a gray background. Now, the last thing I want to do in this video is we're going to set up the button, the clear tasks button, alright, because I want to save the dynamic stuff for the next video. Okay, so we just want to go under the table and create a link. Whoops. Okay, for now we'll have an href, which will just go to nothing. There should be an A here. And then we're going to have the class of btn and btn primary, okay, which is a Bootstrap button class. Okay, so there's our clear button. So the interface for the landing page is complete. In the next video, we're going to be building the add entry form and also add the functionality to actually add classes. Tasks. Alright, and I want to do that before we do the display functionality, just so that we can add them and then do this. We'll do the display so that we can see the ones that are currently there. Alright, just a little, just the way that I like to do it. Alright, so in the next video we'll create the form and functionality to add a task.